104%. That is the current inflation rate in Argentina, a true nightmare scenario. Plus big Bitcoin news for you. But first, let's dive into a few Bitcoin charts. Now, at the time that I recorded this video, Bitcoin had come down to tap the key daily support zone around $27,000. That is an area of interest that comes in from our previous range lows last month. Ideally, we want to see daily closes keeping above the bottom of this red box. Candles into there, that's fine, but let's get the daily closes above that. Now, there is one important thing that I really want to note here about this current pullback. If this is a new bull market starting, as so many indicators are saying, well, it just very well might be, and not just one final hurrah before the dark times and a new Great Depression kick in and pain and suffering and gnashing of teeth and pulling of hair happen, well, then it is worth noting that pullbacks of 15 to 30%, totally normal, man, totally normal. For example, look at this chart. This is 2019, a year that carries many similarities to our current price year for Bitcoin. There were multiple very large corrections, as you can see on the chart here. And while I don't see our current trend being as strong as 2020 or early 2021, obviously, here is that chart as well, just for reference to understand that these kind of big price corrections are totally normal. But as we know very well, is that Bitcoin is super freaking volatile. So keep that in mind. Also, check out the RSI on the 4-hour charts, because this was super interesting for me. You see, the RSI reached the sort of levels that we saw when FTX collapsed and during, of course, the big sell-off that came back in early March. And generally, after such strong RSI oversold readings, Bitcoin tends to have a bit of a boop, a bounce, right? Tends to, not a guarantee to, of course, but is definitely something worth noting and paying attention to, that oversold reading tends to mark a sentiment bottom. Now, right now, I feel like 30K, though, is the line to beat for Bitcoin. Under that, we're just ranging, we get bored, right? Maybe the occasional moment of terror and panic, but above 30K is kind of what I'm hoping for at the moment. Nice move to 48K would be great. Now, before I break down the inflation insanity and the Bitcoin news, if you are a trader, then you definitely need to get yourself an account over on BYBIT. They have the best futures markets, awesome spot altcoin markets, wildly popular copy trading services, and up to 30K in exclusive deposit bonuses for using that link down below in the description to start your account. As well as that, there's only a few days left to get in to win the $1,500 cash giveaway. All you need to do, deposit $100 or more and make one trade, and you can be in to win that $1,500 cash prize, again, using the link down below in the description. Now let's talk about the Bitcoin news. First, let's talk about institutional adoption, which is continuing to move along very nicely. SYZ, a Swiss-based bank, is launching a crypto fund for Bitcoin, Ethereum, Matic, and Link. Now, the fund is initially putting in just 50 million bucks. Apparently, they've got another $300 million expected. Now, let's keep it real. In the grand scheme of things, those numbers are like not crazy, right? That's not going to move Bitcoin up to a new all-time high, right? But keep in mind that we get these kind of announcements like every few days now. New institutional adoption, new banks offering Bitcoin, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. It all adds up. It all adds up fast. There are a whole lot of people right now competing for an ever-dwindling piece of the Bitcoin pie. The supply and exchange just keeps going down. It's already largely impossible for the average investor to buy one whole coin. But pretty soon, even being able to own 0.1 Bitcoin is going to seem out of reach for most investors. Now let's talk about the next big story, which is the real living nightmare that has become Argentina, a country near and dear to my heart, owing to my many Argentine friends, my wife and I's interest and passion for traveling in Argentina and speaking Spanish, and of course our crippling mate addiction. Anyway, inflation in Argentina has now topped 104%. I can't even imagine. I mean, it's complete devastation, man. These kind of sick government policies ruin lives. People can't feed their kids. People lose their freaking homes. They lose their life savings. It literally destroys people's lives. And as usual, we find all the familiar gangsters and villains involved, don't we? The frickin' IMF, they have been working to destroy the Argentine economy for years now. The country also has very strict capital controls in place that have really stifled business domestically in Argentina. It's also put big strains on regular people just trying to access foreign exchange at all or send money abroad. All this stuff has been super hard due to draconian policies by the government. And let's not forget that the IMF pushed for Argentina to dissuade cryptocurrency usage in the country as part of the terms for a $45 billion loan package late last year. The IMF is super anti-crypto. Of course they are, because they're a proxy for the US government, which is also super anti-crypto. The Argentine peso just hit a new record low of 440 pesos on the black market and about 220 on the official government markets. Insanity. It's just been crashing like unbelievably. Once again, we see a country utterly destroyed by reckless politicians taking money and the dictates from the international banking mafia. It is no wonder that Argentina wants to join BRICS. Maybe it's an escape route for them. But look, fiat failure ruins people, it ruins countries, and it's not an anomaly. It's not a bug, it's a feature. It's actually a normal part of the progression of fiat currencies. The vast majority of fiat currencies that ever existed in the world have ended up in the rubbish bin, right? They're a complete catastrophe. The strongest ones, like the British pound or the US dollar, they've just been a slow bleed of intense debasement over time that kills savers and props up the unbelievably corrupt banking system. The message cannot be clearer. You cannot trust your governments. They will screw you. You cannot trust the bankers. They will definitely screw you. You cannot trust fiat currency. It's paper, man, it's garbage. You cannot trust the system. The system is not your friend. It's not here for you. It has all been designed to crush regular people. The clearest alternatives are gold and Bitcoin. And gold, great stuff, love it, but it's a lot harder to do anything with, to move around across borders, all that kind of stuff. Bury it in your backyard and hope for the best, right? Bitcoin, by contrast, the freest money on earth. A tool of financial sovereignty and a tool of freedom for anyone in the world, regardless of ethnicity or sexuality or any of that kind of stuff. Bitcoin also doesn't enforce any kind of capital controls. Bitcoin can go anywhere in the world in minutes. Doesn't care about sanctions or that crap. Imagine doing that with gold. Bitcoin is not manipulated by central bankers ever, and it will also never bow down to the freaking IMF, man, unlike politicians, which love getting down on their knees and pleasing the IMF, right? Better alternatives exist to fiat, straight up. And it's time for people to wake the duck up, because the clock is ticking on all fiat currencies. No one is safe holding fiat at the end of the day. Argentina, sadly, is not the exception. It's the rule for what happens to fiat currencies. Okay, that's it. Subscribe now. I'll see you next time.